My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 29 years old. 6 weeks before my wedding, my phone rang while I was making dinner. Nothing felt unusual about that moment. A pot of rice simmered quietly on the stove. The kitchen window was open just enough to let in the cool October air. My engagement ring kept tapping against the wooden spoon every time I stirred the pot. Then the wedding coordinator asked one question. One simple question. A question that changed everything. I'm so sorry, but are you calling about the Bennett Hale wedding seat or the Hale anniversary event? For a second, I honestly thought she'd called the wrong number. I think you've got the wrong bride, I said. Silence, then I heard her typing. More silence. Finally, I'm looking at the reservation now. My system only shows one event on October 12th. And it's not under your name. The spoon slipped from my hand. It hit the floor with a dull clatter. I didn't even bend down to pick it up. I couldn't. My legs suddenly felt too weak to trust. I asked her to read the reservation again. Slowly, exactly as it appeared. Diane Hale, my future mother-in-law, my wedding date, my wedding venue, booked under her name, not mine. I stared at the pot on the stove until the water boiled over. I didn't move. Some people remember life-changing moments because of what they see. I remember mine because of what I heard, the bubbling water, the ticking kitchen clock, and one sentence repeating inside my head. That can't be right. If only it hadn't been. Because 4 months later, 200 guests would sit beneath the same oak tree where I was supposed to get married. One bride would believe she'd won. Another woman would finally lose control of a story she'd spent years rewriting. But before we get there, you need to understand how a family can slowly convince itself that something belonging to you actually belongs to them. Welcome back to the channel. If you've ever had someone smile while quietly taking something that was yours, you're going to understand this story better than you probably want to. And if you've ever been told to be the bigger person while someone else kept crossing every line, stay with me. Because this didn't end the way anyone expected. Daniel proposed last November. It happened in his mother's backyard. Of course it did. There were string lights hanging from the trees, fresh flowers everywhere, soft music playing from hidden speakers. Everything looked perfect, almost too perfect. At the time, I thought Diane was simply excited. Now I realize something else. She never liked being a guest in someone else's story. She preferred directing it. Daniel was 31, an architect, quiet, patient, the kind of man who apologized when other people were rude. Growing up with Diane had taught him an unusual survival skill. He could read her mood before she said a single word, sometimes before she even walked into the room. It kept the peace, but it also meant everyone else adjusted themselves around her, including him, including me. Diane Hale was 58. In our town, everyone knew her. She had spent more than 20 years running the local historical society. She organized charity events, community fundraisers, holiday galas. People described her as generous, elegant, always willing to help. They weren't wrong. They just didn't know her version of helping usually came with invisible strings attached. Then there was Vanessa, Daniel's older sister, 34, married, 2 children. She wasn't cruel, not at first. She was simply the favorite. You could see it in little things. Diane called her first, defended her faster, forgave her easier. Some parents hide favoritism. Diane wore hers like perfume. Light enough to ignore, strong enough that everyone noticed. I actually liked Vanessa when we first met. She recommended makeup artists, sent me wedding inspiration, checked in every few weeks. Looking back, I don't think any of it was fake. I just think her kindness only lasted until it had to compete with something she wanted. And eventually, that something became my wedding. In February, Daniel and I booked Ashcroft Manor. The moment we walked through the front gates, we both knew. Stone pathways, white gardens, an oak tree older than anyone still alive. It felt peaceful, like a place where promises belonged. The deposit wasn't small. I had been saving for years. Weekend shifts at a bakery during college, long days as a physical therapist after graduation, helping strangers learn to walk again, going home every evening smelling like disinfectant and muscle cream. Every extra paycheck went into one savings account. Wedding, that's what I named it. Not honeymoon, not house. Wedding, because I wanted one day that felt completely ours. Mine and Daniel's. No one else's. I remember signing the contract, sliding the folder back across Harold's desk. He smiled and said, "Congratulations. I think this place is going to look beautiful on you two." I smiled all the way home. I had no idea that piece of paper would become the most important document I owned. More important than any invitation. More important than any seating chart. Because months later, it would be the only thing standing between my wedding and someone else's entitlement. At first, Diane's involvement felt harmless. Little suggestions, nothing more. "I just think ivory photographs better. I just think your cousin should sit closer. I just think this band is more elegant." Always the same opening. "I just think." Daniel would squeeze my hand. "Just nod," he'd whisper. "It's easier." So I did. Because when you're planning a wedding, you tell yourself every compromise is small. Until one day, you realize you've been giving away pieces of something that was supposed to belong to you. By spring, wedding planning had taken over my life. Every evening looked the same. Spreadsheets, guest lists, vendor emails, color samples spread across the dining table. It was exhausting, but it was the kind of exhausting that comes with building something you're excited for. Every decision made the wedding feel a little more real. Or at least, I thought it did. Diane became more involved every week. She never demanded anything outright. She suggested, questioned, smiled, then waited. "I just think roses would look softer. I just think your guest list is a little ambitious. I just think family should come before friends." Always gentle, always reasonable. And somehow, I always ended up changing something. Looking back, I realized she wasn't planning my wedding. She was testing how much control I was willing to hand over. One small decision at a time. Daniel noticed it too. Sometimes he'd catch my eye across the room after another one of Diane's suggestions. He'd give me an apologetic smile. Later he'd say, "I'm sorry, she means well." I believed him. Because loving someone sometimes means believing the version of their family they hope is true, not the one standing right in front of you. Then July arrived, and everything shifted. It started with whispers. A neighbor had seen Craig having dinner with another woman. Someone else claimed they'd been spotted together again. Different restaurant, different night, same woman. Small towns don't keep secrets. They pass them around until everyone owns a piece. Vanessa found out within days. I expected shouting, a separation, maybe even divorce papers. Instead, she disappeared for nearly a week. No family dinners, no phone calls, no social media. Then, one Sunday afternoon, she walked into Diane's house holding Craig's hand. They announced they were renewing their vows. "A fresh start," Vanessa said quietly. "A chance to remind everyone what matters." The room erupted with relief. Diane cried. Daniel hugged his sister. Everyone acted as if the storm had already passed. I remember smiling too. Because honestly, I felt sorry for her. Marriage is messy. People make terrible decisions. I thought they deserved the chance to fix it. I had no idea that fixing their marriage was about to become my problem. A few weeks later, I was standing in my kitchen making dinner when my phone rang. The screen showed Ashcroft Manor. I smiled before answering. I assumed they were calling about flowers, or parking, or the rehearsal schedule. Instead, I heard Priya. She sounded nervous. The kind of nervous people sound when they already know they're bringing bad news. Claire, I'm really sorry. I just need to confirm something. Are you the Bennett Hale wedding or the Hale anniversary event? I laughed. A confused little laugh. There isn't an anniversary event. You must have the wrong file. Silence, keyboard clicks. Then she quietly said, I wish I did. The room suddenly felt too quiet. She explained that another booking had appeared on my wedding date. Same venue, same afternoon, different name. I asked her whose. She hesitated. Then she answered, Diane Hale. For a second, I genuinely thought I had misheard her. My future mother-in-law? Yes. I looked down at the wooden spoon still in my hand. My fingers had gone completely numb. The spoon slipped onto the kitchen floor. Neither of us spoke. Finally, I whispered, Can you read everything exactly as it appears? She did, every word, every detail, every confirmation. By the time she finished, I wasn't listening anymore. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. I called Daniel before I even picked the spoon back up. He answered on the second ring. Hey, I couldn't get the words out. He immediately knew something was wrong. Claire, what happened? I forwarded him Priya's email without saying a word. Less than a minute later, he called back. His voice had changed. Stay where you are. I'm coming. 20 minutes later, he walked into the apartment still wearing his work boots. He hadn't even taken off his jacket. He read the email 3 times. Then he looked at me. I don't understand. Neither did I. Not yet. Then his phone rang. It was Diane, almost as if she already knew we'd found out. Daniel answered on speaker. Mom, tell me this isn't true. A pause, long enough to make my stomach tighten. Then he asked again. Softer this time. You booked our venue. Another pause. I watched his face lose every bit of color. Finally, he whispered, You didn't even ask us. He ended the call without saying goodbye. The apartment stayed silent for what felt like forever. Then he looked at me. I'm so sorry. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because, for the first time in his life, he had seen his mother exactly the way I was seeing her. And neither of us could pretend anymore. That night, my phone rang again. This time, it was Diane. That evening, my phone lit up again. Diane Hale. I stared at her name for a few seconds before answering. I already knew what she was going to say. I just didn't know how calmly she was going to say it. Claire, sweetheart. Her voice was warm, almost comforting. If you've heard about the venue, I'd really like to explain. I didn't say anything. I wanted her to fill the silence herself. And she did. Vanessa's been through so much, you know that. I've never seen her this heartbroken. I couldn't just stand by and watch her marriage fall apart. There it was. Not an apology, an explanation. As if the problem wasn't what she'd done. It was that I didn't understand why she'd done it. Finally, I spoke. You booked my wedding venue. Without asking me. She sighed softly. I know how it looks. No, she didn't. Because there was only one way it looked. Exactly the way it happened. You took something that wasn't yours. Another pause. Then she lowered her voice. Claire, family has to come first. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was unbelievable. I thought I was family. Silence, the kind of silence that answers a question better than words ever could. When she finally spoke again, her tone had changed. Not colder, just firmer. You and Daniel have your whole lives ahead of you. You can get married next month. Or next spring, but Vanessa may not have a marriage left. I closed my eyes. For a second, I couldn't even process what I'd just heard. She wasn't asking me. She'd already decided. She simply expected me to agree. I walked over to the kitchen window. Outside, a couple across the street were unloading groceries from their car. Their biggest problem that evening was probably deciding what to cook for dinner. Mine was trying to understand how someone could steal my wedding and still believe they were the generous one. I asked the only question that mattered. If Vanessa needed a venue, why didn't she book one herself? Diane answered immediately, without even thinking. Because Ashcroft was already perfect. It didn't make sense to start over when everything was already there. Perfect, she said it so casually, as if she were talking about borrowing a sweater, not someone's wedding, not years of planning, not thousands of dollars, just perfect. Before hanging up, she said one last thing. I know you'll do the right thing. The call ended. I looked at my phone for a long time. Funny how some people confuse kindness with permission. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation in my head. Every sentence sounded worse the second time. Around 3 a.m, I stopped trying to make sense of Diane. Instead, I started thinking about paperwork, the contract, the deposit, the signatures. By sunrise, I knew exactly who I needed to call. Harold answered on the second ring. His voice sounded tired, almost guilty. Claire, I've been expecting your call. I didn't waste time. I need one honest answer. Is my contract still valid? The line went quiet. I heard him take a slow breath. Then he said something I will never forget. Yes, it always has been. I frowned. Then why am I being told my wedding was replaced? Because, he stopped. Searching for the right words, I made the mistake of trusting an old friend. He explained everything. Diane had called him almost 2 weeks earlier. She said there had been a change of plans. She spoke with complete confidence, like someone who had every right to make decisions for my wedding. Harold admitted something that surprised me. He had never cancelled my contract. Never. He had only started preparing new paperwork. Because he believed Diane when she said I'd already agreed. But you never signed a release. And without that, your contract cannot be touched. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time in 24 hours, I could breathe again. So legally, the venue is still mine? 100%. Mine, that word felt different now. Heavier, stronger, not emotional, legal, real, signed, protected. Harold apologized again, more sincerely this time. I should have called you first. That was my mistake. I won't make another one. After we hung up, I opened the folder where I'd been keeping every wedding document. Invoices, receipts, guest lists, vendor contracts. And there it was. The original agreement, my signature, Daniel's signature, Harold's signature, 3 names, 1 date, 1 venue, no mention of Diane, no mention of Vanessa, just the truth, printed in black ink. When Daniel came home that evening, I handed him the contract. He read every page. Slowly, when he finished, he looked up at me. So, we don't have to move. I shook my head. No, we never did. For the first time since Priya's phone call, a small smile appeared on his face. So what do we do now? I looked back down at the contract. Then I said something I hadn't realized until that exact moment. We stop defending what's ours, and we start protecting it. Because this was never just about a wedding anymore. It was about boundaries, about respect, about refusing to disappear quietly from my own story. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of disappointing Diane. I was afraid of disappointing myself if I gave in. Over the next few weeks, I stopped arguing. That confused Diane more than anything. She expected tears. She expected phone calls. She expected me to beg. Instead, I became very quiet. And quiet people notice everything. I noticed relatives congratulating Vanessa on social media. I noticed Ashcroft Manor sharing one of her engagement-style photos. I noticed comments from people who had no idea they were celebrating an event that legally didn't exist. "You deserve this. Can't wait for October." What a beautiful family. Every comment felt like another brick added to a lie. Daniel asked me one evening, "Shouldn't we tell everyone?" I looked at the contract lying on our dining table. "No, not yet." He frowned. "You really think this will work?" "I don't know. But people usually reveal the truth themselves when they think nobody's watching." 2 weeks later, Harold called. This time, he sounded exhausted. "Claire, we have a problem." I smiled to myself. "No, I think you do." He let out a nervous laugh. "I deserve that." Then he explained. Diane had already mailed invitations, nearly 200 of them. She'd booked photographers, florists, musicians. She'd promised everyone that Vanessa's vow renewal would take place at Ashcroft Manor on October 12th. The exact same day, the exact same property, the exact same afternoon. Harold rubbed his forehead so loudly I could almost hear it through the phone. "I honestly don't think she ever believed you'd keep your date. Neither did I, until now." "So what's the solution?" I asked. He hesitated. "I was hoping you might consider sharing the property." He quickly explained. My wedding would stay exactly where it belonged. The main courtyard. 4 o'clock. Vanessa's ceremony could use the small garden pavilion later that evening. Different entrance, different guests, different schedule. No overlap. I closed my eyes for a moment. None of this was my responsibility. None of it. But I also refused to punish Vanessa for a mess her mother had created. Finally, I answered, "I'm keeping my wedding, but if the pavilion is available afterward, I won't stand in the way." Harold let out a breath that sounded like he'd been holding it for days. "Thank you. I'll confirm everything in writing." 1 hour later, the email arrived. It clearly stated that the main courtyard belonged to Daniel Hale and Claire Bennett, exactly as our original contract specified. For the second time, I printed it, folded it, and placed it beside the original agreement. Paper doesn't forget, people do. The following Sunday, family dinner felt strangely normal, almost too normal. Vanessa talked about flowers. Craig barely spoke. Daniel's father watched football in the next room. No one mentioned the venue, until Diane smiled across the table. "I'm glad Claire finally came around." Around, such a harmless word, unless you're the one being rewritten. I looked directly at her. I didn't come around. I kept my wedding. The room went silent. Vanessa looked down at her plate. Craig suddenly became very interested in his mashed potatoes. Diane forced a smile. "That's what I meant." No, it wasn't. But I wasn't interested in proving it anymore. Truth doesn't need permission to exist. A few days later, Diane invited me to lunch. Just the two of us. The invitation alone made me suspicious. She had never once asked to spend time with me without someone else present. When I arrived, she had already ordered. For both of us. She smiled as though nothing had happened. We made small talk for almost 10 minutes. The weather, the flowers, the guest list. Then she reached into her purse. She placed an envelope on the table and gently pushed it toward me. Inside was a check. $4,000. She watched my face carefully. I know this doesn't fix everything, but maybe it helps. I looked back at her. What exactly am I being paid for? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she folded her hands. I was thinking, when everyone gathers for the reception, we could acknowledge both celebrations. Just for a few minutes. A toast, a shared announcement, a day of new beginnings. She smiled again. So the whole family feels united. There it was. Not a gift, not compensation, a purchase. She wasn't buying peace, She was trying to buy my place in the story. I slowly slid the check back across the table. My wedding isn't a timeshare. Her smile faded. I continued. You already tried to take my venue. I'm not giving you my spotlight too. For the first time, I saw something crack behind her eyes. Not guilt, not regret. Control. She had spent months believing every conversation ended the way she wanted. This one didn't. She picked up the envelope. Her voice turned cold. You're making this much harder than it has to be. I stood. No, you did that. I'm just refusing to make it easier. I walked out without looking back. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. It was Daniel. How did it go? I started the engine. Then I smiled. For the first time, I think your mother finally realized I'm not moving, and neither was my wedding. What I didn't know was that October 12th was only days away, and while Diane was still trying to control the story, life had already started writing a very different ending. October 12th arrived faster than I expected. I woke up before my alarm. For a few seconds, everything felt normal. Then I remembered. Today wasn't just my wedding day. It was the day months of lies would finally meet the truth. Outside, the sky was clear. The kind of crisp autumn morning people hope for when they plan an outdoor wedding. I took a slow breath. Then, another. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't angry. I was calm. Because no matter what happened, I knew one thing. I belonged there. Ashcroft Manor looked exactly the way I'd imagined months earlier. The gardens were glowing in the afternoon light. White chairs lined the stone aisle. The old oak tree stood exactly where it always had. Steady, unmoved, somehow, that tree reminded me of the contract folded inside my bridal bag. Both had survived attempts to move them. Neither had. Priya met me at the bridal suite. She smiled, but something about her expression felt different. Nervous, everything okay? I asked. She nodded too quickly. Mostly, then she lowered her voice. There's a situation near the garden pavilion. I felt my stomach tighten. What happened? She hesitated. I don't know all the details, but people are arguing. I heard Craig's name, and another woman just arrived. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then Priya quietly added, I think this has nothing to do with you. She was right. For the first time, none of it did. At exactly 4 o'clock, the music began. The doors opened. I took my father's arm. The guests stood. Every face turned toward me. Not Vanessa. Not Diane. Me. As I stepped onto the stone walkway, I heard raised voices somewhere beyond the gardens. Far enough away that I couldn't understand the words. Close enough to know something had happened. I didn't look. Not once. Because after everything, I refused to let someone else's chaos steal one more second of my day. Daniel was waiting beneath the oak tree. The moment our eyes met, everything else disappeared. The noise, the tension, the last year, all of it. He smiled. A real smile. The kind I hadn't seen since before that phone call from Priya. When I reached him, he quietly whispered, You made it. I smiled back. So did you. The ceremony lasted less than 20 minutes. Simple, honest, exactly what we'd planned. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the applause felt different. Not because we had won, because we had stopped letting someone else decide what winning looked like. Later that evening, the truth finally reached us. Craig had never made it to the pavilion. The woman he'd been seeing had arrived after receiving a copy of the invitation from someone who knew the affair hadn't ended. The confrontation happened before the ceremony even began. Guests started leaving. The photographer packed up without taking a single family portrait. The floral arch Diane had fought so hard to secure stood empty all evening. No vows, no celebration, just silence. I didn't celebrate that. Honestly, I felt sad for Vanessa. No one deserves to learn the truth that way. But the truth has a strange habit. It shows up whether people are ready for it or not. During our reception, Diane finally stood to give her toast. She looked exactly the way she always had. Elegant, composed, perfect, until you looked into her eyes. They were tired. She congratulated us. She thanked the guests for coming. She spoke about family, about love, about new beginnings. Then she sat down. No stories, no speeches about sacrifice, no attempts to share the spotlight. For the first time since I'd known her, she let someone else's moment stay exactly where it belonged. I caught her looking toward the empty seat where Vanessa should have been. Then she quietly looked away. Sometimes, silence says everything an apology never could. A few months later, Vanessa and Craig separated. The divorce didn't surprise anyone, neither did the rumors that followed. What surprised people was something else. Diane changed. Not overnight, not dramatically. But little by little, she stopped trying to organize everyone else's lives. She stopped speaking for Daniel. Stopped making decisions nobody asked her to make. She never apologized. Not directly. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe some people spend so many years protecting their pride, they no longer know how to put it down. I stopped waiting for that apology. Because healing doesn't always begin when someone admits they were wrong. Sometimes, it begins the moment you stop needing them to. People often ask if I still have my wedding contract. I do. It's folded inside a small wooden box in our living room, right beside our wedding vows. Some people keep love letters. I kept proof, not because I expected another fight, but because that piece of paper reminds me of something far more important than a wedding. Boundaries matter. Promises matter. Your name matters. And if you spend your life giving those things away just to keep the peace, one day you'll wake up and realize you've disappeared from your own story. I almost let that happen. Almost, but not quite. Because in the end, I walked down that aisle. I married the man I loved, under the tree we chose, on the date we paid for, in the place that had always been ours. Mine, and sometimes, one word is enough to tell the whole story. Thank you for listening. If this story reminded you of a moment when someone tried to rewrite your life, tell me about it in the comments. And if you've ever had to fight quietly for something that was already yours, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next story.